massive Russian airstrike hits Kyiv ahead of critical NATO weapons talks. Russia has launched one of its most intense aerial attacks on Kyiv in recent months, striking just hours before a crucial high-level meeting aimed at discussing military support for Ukraine. This sudden escalation comes as the United Kingdom and Germany prepare to lead talks focused on U.S. President Donald Trump's controversial proposal for NATO allies to supply Ukraine with advanced weaponry. The overnight drone and missile barrage tragically resulted in 2 fatalities and left 15 people injured, including a 12-year-old child, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. This brutal assault highlights the pressing need for enhanced Western military assistance, particularly in air defense capabilities, as Ukraine faces relentless attacks. Notably, this comes just a week after President Trump promised that weapon deliveries would begin within days. The upcoming virtual meeting will be chaired by British Defence Secretary John Healey and his German counterpart Boris Pistorius. They will be joined by U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte, and NATO's Supreme Allied Commander Europe, General Alexis Grinkwich. This gathering, known as the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, aims to coordinate and accelerate military aid to Ukraine. Moscow has significantly ramped up its long-range strikes on Ukrainian cities, with experts warning that these attacks are likely to intensify further as Russia increases its drone production capabilities. This shift in Russian tactics underscores the critical importance of bolstering Ukraine's air defenses. In a notable change in tone, President Trump last week issued a stern 50-day ultimatum to Russia, demanding a ceasefire or threatening to impose even harsher sanctions. At Monday's meeting, British Defence Secretary Healey is expected to call on Western allies to launch a synchronized 50-day drive to equip Kyiv with the necessary weapons to counter Russia's larger military forces and pressure President Vladimir Putin into peace negotiations. Trump's arms plan, unveiled a week ago, involves European countries transferring American-made weapons to Ukraine through NATO channels. These could come from existing stockpiles or be newly purchased and donated. The plan reportedly focuses on advanced Patriot air defense systems, with Trump stating that deliveries would start imminently. However, senior officials have since indicated that no actual transfers have yet occurred. General Grinkwich told the Associated Press that preparations for these weapons shipments are underway, while U.S. Ambassador to NATO Matthew Whitaker declined to provide a specific timeline. Germany has offered to finance 2 new Patriot systems for Ukraine and suggested it might supply some of its own systems, which the U.S. would then replace. Yet, German Chancellor Merz cautioned that delivery and installation of these complex systems could take days or even weeks, not hours. Switzerland has also entered the picture, with its defense. Russia-Ukraine drone strikes surge as ceasefire talks nearing. The relentless escalation of drone warfare between Russia and Ukraine is reaching unprecedented levels as both nations prepare for potential ceasefire negotiations. This ongoing conflict, which began in February 2022, has seen a dramatic surge in the number and intensity of cross-border drone strikes, setting new records for both sides. In a significant development, Russia's defense ministry reported on Monday that its forces had successfully downed 107 Ukrainian drones across 7 different regions, including a notable 28 drones in the Moscow region. Just hours before, Ukraine's defense ministry had announced that it had shot down 221 Russian drones, marking the highest single-day tally since June 6. These escalating actions have led to widespread disruptions, particularly affecting major airports in Russia. Artem Koronyako, a spokesperson for Russia's Federal Aviation Agency Rosaviatsia, shared updates via Telegram indicating that several major airports in Moscow, Zhukovsky, Sheremetyevo, and Domodedovo, and the Strogino International Airport in Nizhny Novgorod had implemented temporary flight restrictions due to the latest wave of attacks. On the Ukrainian front, the situation was no less intense. The country's Air Force reported that Russia had launched 426 strike and decoy drones, along with 24 missiles of various types, into Ukrainian territory overnight. Despite these aggressive actions, Ukrainian forces managed to intercept or suppress 404 drones and all incoming missiles. However, some drones did manage to impact specific areas, causing damage to residential buildings, a supermarket, a kindergarten, and warehouses in 6 different city districts of Kyiv. Tragically, at least 1 person lost their life, and 9 others were injured in these attacks. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, addressing the nation via telegram, highlighted that multiple regions, including Kharkiv, Ivano-Frankivsk, Sumy, Khmelnytsky, Kirovohrad, Mykolaiv, Poltava, and Kherson, had been affected by the recent violence. He emphasized that only sustained pressure on Russia could bring an end to this relentless aggression. In a series of subsequent messages, Zelenskyy announced a meeting with his newly appointed defense minister, Denis Shmyhal, and directed the military to enhance both defensive and offensive drone capabilities. Our priority is to ensure that every need of our Army aviation, Air Force, and units protecting lives in our cities and villages is fully met, Zelenskyy stated. He also called for a significant increase in the frequency and range of drone operations targeting Russian military infrastructure. The escalation in drone activity is evident when looking at the statistics from the past few months. In July alone, Russia launched 4,929 drones and 148 missiles into Ukraine, averaging around 234 drones and 7 missiles per day. This is a stark contrast to June, when the numbers stood at 5,438 drones and 239 missiles, with an average of 181 drones and nearly 8 missiles daily. In May, Russia's tally was 3,835 drones and 117 missiles, averaging approximately 124 drones and nearly 4 missiles per day. While Ukraine's drone activity is smaller in scale, there has been a noticeable increase in intensity. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, they have reported downing 2,303 Ukrainian drones in July, averaging about 109 per day. This figure is slightly lower than the previous month, when they shot down 2,368 drones, averaging almost 79 per day. In May, the ministry reported intercepting 3,611 Ukrainian drones, averaging around 116 per day. Amidst the heightened tensions, President Zelenskyy expressed his willingness to engage in new talks with Russia aimed at achieving a ceasefire. He proposed meeting with Russian officials the following week to discuss critical issues such as the return of prisoners, the recovery of abducted children, and the preparation for a leaders' meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Meanwhile, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov addressed the recent ultimatum issued by former U.S. President Donald Trump, who demanded that Russia agree to a ceasefire within 50 days or face additional sanctions. Peskov acknowledged Trump's tough stance but emphasized that Russia remains committed to finding a peaceful resolution to the conflict. President Putin has consistently expressed his desire to transition the conflict to a peaceful path, Peskov stated. However, this process requires significant effort and understanding from all parties involved. Peskov also hinted at the possibility of future meetings between Trump and Putin, suggesting that such discussions could be crucial for solidifying major agreements. However, he stressed that the groundwork for these negotiations is still being laid. "We are prepared to move quickly," Peskov added. "Our objectives are clear and unchanging, but the success of these efforts depends on collaboration from all sides." This intensification of drone warfare and the prospect of renewed ceasefire negotiations underscore the complexity and urgency of the situation. As both nations continue to escalate their attacks, the international community watches closely, hoping for a resolution to this devastating conflict.